Hi, everyone. It's great to see that so many of us made it here on a week earlier than normal. This is the September meeting of the Madison Astronomical Society. I'm Lawrence Moore, president of the society, and I'm happy to be here with all of you. Just before we get to the roundtable, which I suppose doesn't have to start strictly at 7:30, there's a few announcements, some of which have uh, something to do with some of the topics during the roundtable discussion. First of all, coming up a week from tonight, on Saturday, September the 13th, we're all going to be putting on the big Moon Over Monona Terrace bar party show. Friday, September the 13th. What did I say? I said Saturday. I was reading Friday and I said Saturday. How about that? Thanks for letting me know. So yes, that's coming up on Friday, September the 13th. And the time where they're going to start letting in guests is 7:30 and it's going to run till 10 o'clock. And we've had a lot of people volunteer. I think we're in pretty good shape. I could maybe use um, one or two more ushers, but no big deal. And uh, so we've got a large number of people who've decided to bring in telescopes. I think we're going to be having a total of 8 people running video displays of some type with the electronically assisted astronomy or the classic camera to video display. Um, Earlier this week, I sent out an email to all the people that volunteered that are going to be showing sky objects of some type to reply to me and let me know what out of the list of targets that we're promising to send, we're promising to view as advertised on the Monona Terrace website. Um, to everyone who's running an EAA or video rig, or anyone who's running telescopes, binoculars, and you haven't got back to me, please get back to me because we'd like to have an opportunity for all the people that show up to be able to see something that they thought they were going to be able to see. So we'll work that out this week. Um, an important thing, I don't want to steal all the thunder from the roundtable discussion, but an important thing to note is any of the people who have volunteered or want to volunteer, if you haven't gotten an email from me acknowledging that you are volunteering, get in contact with me as soon as you can. Because this week we're going to send in the instructions. Because what's going to happen is if you just show up there and it's before 7:30, they're not going to let you in until after 7:30, and then you're going to have to have a free ticket to get in. So if you want to get in there, we're going to start set up at around 6:30ish. If you want to be able to access the roof before they open the event, you're going to need to get in touch with me so I can send you the instructions. And we can talk more about that during the roundtable. It has happened in the past where a volunteer has shown up and they weren't able to get in on the roof until after the opening public. Next on my list is membership. We're coming up on our annual membership renewal drive. Jurgen, do you want to say a few words about that? I will hand you the mic.
Thank you. Excuse me. I'm going to be sending out renewal letters either Monday night or Tuesday night, so everybody should be able to get them by the end of the week. And something different this year, as everybody knows, I think that we've condensed the membership classes and the dues, and that's the renewal form reflects that everybody who had been a regular or regular observer is now a general class, and everybody who had been a student is still a student. But everybody now has access to YRS after you've been suitably trained. And since I don't think we've ever kept track of who's been suitably trained, I assume everybody's suitably trained, but we'll deal with that later. In addition to that, though, we are in the process of rejoining the Astronomical League because MAS at one point, I guess, was a founder of it. And there'll be an opportunity there to join and have MAS kind of manage your membership. If you are already a member of the Astronomical League, we can convert you over under us because it's going to be cheaper to come under us rather than have your own $40 membership. So those two things are on the form. And there's information in there and pointing you and where to get more information about the Astronomical League so you could make a semi-informed choice. Um, and the we're actually signing you up because of the weird way that the fiscal years between the Astronomical League and MAS, they don't overlap. So we're charging a little bit extra, and you're actually going to be signing up for a little bit over a year and a half. But we'll take, I think the instructions will be pretty clear. And if anybody has any questions, just send me an email. So as I say, they'll be coming out early next week, and so you can all expect to be writing out checks next week.
Thanks, Jürgen. Does anybody have any questions for Jürgen right now on membership renewal? Very good. Um, Coming up this Tuesday at this very venue, UW Space Place, Tuesday, September 10th, there's going to be a presentation called How We Can Find Other Life in the Universe by Thomas Beattie. And unfortunately, the description of the talk was HTML gibberish when I wrote this up. So the title is all I have, but it sounds like a very fascinating and interesting subject. And that's coming up here Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Um, Another one of the things that we're going to be able to talk about for the roundtable tonight, just want to put out there for those of us who are joining online, that we are planning to have an annual picnic at Iana Research Station on Saturday, September 28th. And we're, right, as of right now, planning to have a rain date in case of bad weather that Saturday. We'll have a backup date on Sunday, September 29th. Moving right along. Done. All right. And then next month, we're going to be meeting here on our normal second Friday of the month, Friday, October 11th at 7 p.m. I did say Friday this time. Yes. Um, uh, our monthly meeting is going to feature a guest presentation, MAS History Mystery. When is my birthday? And it's going to be presented by our very own John Rummel. John, do you want to say give us a preview of your presentation next month?
Yeah, next month it's going to be a talk about the MAS history. Many of you know that over the past couple of years we've done this ambitious project to document the history of the club. So next year I'm going to do a presentation on the history of the club, focusing on the birth of the club in the 1930s. And it'll be, I mean, it's really fun. You guys should definitely come and hear that. And at the end of that presentation, we're going to be making a special announcement. So you don't want to miss the announcement.
And normally at this point, I'd say, is there anybody who has some interesting astronomy news or recent observing activity that they'd like to share with us? But maybe that can be part of the roundtable if we get around to it. So usually we get crickets like that, but sometimes somebody has an exciting announcement to share with us. You never know. So I guess that is all the announcements I have for this month. Does anybody have any questions or any announcements that they would like to make? Hearing none, I guess not. Well, with no further ado, I guess we could proceed with our round table discussion. I'll go ahead and put this microphone on since we are casting on the internet and there might be members who are joining us from afar, so that everyone can hear on, the Q&A or the discussion. I'll go ahead and put this microphone set on the table right over there on the part over there, and anyone who wants to chime in, feel free to use this mic. Don't put the mic too close to yourself. It's kind of designed to be a little bit further away.
So the idea behind the second microphone is that as a roundtable discussion, this is supposed to be interactive. So I'm hoping that some of you have some input tonight. And if you do, don't just stand up where you are and talk. Don't just sit where you are and talk. Go over to the microphone so that your voice can get out. First, your voice can be recorded because this will be on YouTube for posterity, but also the people who are watching on YouTube tonight will be able to hear you. If you stay in your seats, you won't be heard. Now, if you want to stay in your seats, if you have a really short question, you can do that. I will repeat your question, so we can do it that way. But if you have extended comments, please go to the microphone. So what we're going to do tonight is something that we used to do this kind of frequently. Um, years ago, we would have a speaker just not show up. And so the MC of the meeting would just kind of do an open, conversational talk. It's been a long time since we've done anything like that. So I have a little bit more planning that's gone into tonight. I have three topics queued up that we can talk about. And these three topics are the upcoming Moon Over Monona Terrace that Lawrence just got done reviewing some of the details of. I want to talk a little bit more in detail about how you prepare for a just monstrously large public event like this can be. Number two, rejoining the Astronomical League. We'll talk about that a little bit, see if any of you have any comments about that. And number three, the MAS picnic. There are also other things that we could talk about. If you have ideas or suggestions, then by all means, please let us know and we'll address those topics. Um, but before we get to that, Lawrence always does a welcome of new members and visitors. So we just moved that into the roundtable discussion. Are there any visitors with us tonight who are visiting MAS for the very first time? Seeing none,
Yeah.
I would also like to ask, are there any people who have joined recently? And by recently, I mean, within the last year. Maybe you've already had a chance to introduce yourself at a previous meeting, but let's hear a little bit more from you tonight. So if you don't mind, yeah, but just so that everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Uh, my name's Craig Jewell. I joined, I think, in December because I have a scope that had been collecting dust, and my wife kept asking me why I had that. And when I looked up, how do I learn how to use this thing? Because it was overwhelming me. I found this group, and I found that there was a meeting in 3 days. So I jumped in my car, brought my buddy Norm along with me, and I signed up then right away, sent in my dues, because I wanna I wanna explore the night sky better. And I heard the phrase star hopping, and that intrigues me more than the photography, astrophotography and such. So really just want to get an opportunity to get out there. And now that we have the new membership, the $60 membership, I'm looking forward to using YRS and learning the orientation. So um, that's that's on my agenda for.
So Craig, you've been a member since December.
Yeah.
Have you gotten your questions answered yet about how to use your telescope?
Yeah, the very first night, actually. Yeah. And it still has taken me a while to get comfortable with it, but I'm getting better with it.
Great.
So, it's not just mean and looking at me with a grimace anymore.
And it's all de-dusted.
Yeah, I would
Good.
say it's dedusted. Yeah.
Excellent. Craig, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Again, if you've been a member for even, a year or more.
Since Craig just outed me anyway, I might as well indicate I'm Norm Geschko, and Craig and I came to that meeting back in December, and I will be joining as soon as someone takes my dues. So, I'll just get them to you before I leave. So that's been my plan here as well. I have had a just a kind of a lifelong, amateur type of interest in astronomy. I've been a member actually of the Planetary Society and get that magazine. So I just saw that since 1993. So, and read that one cover to cover every time I get it. Um, and apparently, Craig and I have infected my daughter a little bit as well. She's a senior this year. She had to do her uh, English class, 11th grade English class, career day. She confused the teacher who didn't know who to put her with whom else. There's a lot of people, library sciences or movies or a lot of computer stuff. Well, she did her uh, uh, career day thing on sample return missions with an interactive walk-in rocket that she's changed the uh, 4 or 5 of the displays depending on what mission you were at, and had a little sample as well, including kind of the amount of material, which is not much, that comes back from those sample return missions. So it's kind of been that, and I'm kind of with Greg looking forward to just expanding that a little more, feeling back at work as I try to get closer to retirement and have more time for fun stuff like this.
Great. Well, welcome to both of you. So they go back to December. Anybody else who joined in the last year or more? All right. Thank you, guys. Next topic is Moon Over Monona Terrace. And as Lawrence said, it's a public star party and it's a big one. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm the historian of the club. So I'm going to give all of these topics a little historical introduction tonight. So I wanted to know, when did this tradition start? When did Moon Over Monona start? Moon Over Monona goes back to 1998. In that year, October of 1998, the American Astronomical Society, AS, um, huge organization. They have a smaller subdivision called the Division of Planetary Sciences, DPS. DPS itself is huge. DPS held their annual convention in Madison that year, 1998, at Monona Terrace Convention Center. In the late 90s, Monona Terrace was still reasonably new. It had not been open for that long. And so a big convention like this was a big thing. That convention was run by UW Space Sciences professor Sanjay Lamay. He was the local host. Some of you know Sanjay. Sanjay had a very close relationship with MAS at the time. And so with this big planetary convention going on at Moon Over Monona, Sanjay recruited MAS members to help. And MAS members did a variety of things. They needed drivers to pick scientists up at the airport and drive them to their hotels. They needed some people to act as gophers on the convention floor, just to help with stuff that needs doing at a big convention like this. In return, MAS members got a free pass, and they could go to any of the talks that they wanted to. And we have some really nerdy MAS members who were just thrilled to be able to go to some of those talks with, late breaking, cutting edge science that was going on at the time. And one of the things that we did that year is we had a star party on the rooftop of Monona Terrace Convention Center. This was October of '98. I don't remember going. I was a relatively new member of the club at the time. I don't think I went. I can't find any club records that say definitively it was a clear night and the star party went off. I believe it did. I looked at archival weather on Weather Underground, and it was a partly cloudy evening. So I think it probably went forward. But I don't know any details of how the event went off that year. In 1998, it was not called Moon Over Monona. There's the little announcement that was in the paper the day of the event. It was just a star party coinciding with this big gathering of planetary scientists. So somebody with their telescope up there that night might have had Carl Sagan's widow, Anne Drian, look at their telescope, because Anne was at the convention. I don't know if she went to the star party. But I'm assuming that it went forward. I'm assuming that it was a success, because in 1999, Monona Terrace invited us back. And this 1999 was the first Moon Over Monona. There was no convention. Monona Terrace was just so impressed with the public showing of the star party on the roof that they wanted to do it again. So they asked MAS, and MAS, of course, said yes. So in 1999, Tim Elstad took this picture of me at the very first Monona Terrace Moon Over Monona event. That was a successful night, and it was so successful that we have done it every year since 1999. Now, it hasn't happened every year because it's a weather fall event. Some years it was cloudy or rainy. Some years it just didn't go forward because of weather conditions. But every year when conditions permit, Moon Over Monona has been a staple Madison event. And Monona Terrace loves it because it's such a positive, feel-good community event, and people come out in droves. So that's me on the left in 1999. That's Jeff Schockler. I think that was 2015. Another picture that I took, this was 2008, just setting my camera up and, slightly long exposure because it was nighttime, so the people are blurry. But you can just get a sense for the rooftop. If you've ever been in that environment, the rooftop is, it's a big open area. They do turn those lights off so that we don't have lights glaring in our faces when we're pointing our telescopes up. but you can just see maybe 15, 20 members of the public in this picture. This was 2008. A few years later, the event gained popularity quickly. This picture from 2016. And first of all, you can tell that this picture was taken before it was fully dark. The sky is still illuminated. So before the star party really got rolling, look at the number of people gathered in that open space on the rooftop. By the time it got dark, and by the time this thing was fully rolling, Monona Terrace Convention Center estimates for that year we had somewhere between 2,200 and 2,500 people. Now, the rooftop is a nice big area, but 2,200 people is a lot of people. And as you can see, you can't really see too well, but the telescopes are set up kind of close together. We were all thinking normal Moon over Monona is maybe 3, 4, 500 people spaced over 2 hours. It's a manageable number of people. And so we tended to set our telescopes up without much forethought, and certainly without the anticipation of 2,000 people showing up. This year was a watershed year. And after this 2016, kind of a disaster because of the number of people who came, Monona Terrace got together with us and said, we need to be more deliberate. And we said, yeah, we do. And we started spacing the telescopes. They put up what are those theater rope things are to kind of, you know, guide people into lines to look through the various telescopes. But it became a huge event. It is outreach at its best because people come, they've got their kids, everybody becomes a kid when you look through a telescope. So it's a lot of fun. We do try to planfully not have every single telescope looking at the moon so that people wait in one line, look at the moon, then wait in another line, look at the moon, then wait in a third line and look at the moon. We try to have people looking at a variety of things, and we think that we've kind of got that down, although we're at the mercy of what's up. And it is downtown Madison, so you're not going to look at too many faint fuzzies. You're going to be limited in the deep sky objects. But it's something that you really have to see to believe. So I hope all of you are at least going to go. And I hope that many of you are going to go and volunteer and be one of those telescopes that's set up because this is a good time. There is nothing like that adrenaline that you get going when you're really doing a great public event. I know some of you who've been there and done this in the past. I would like to hear some of your thoughts by going to the microphone. Chris, I'm looking at you.
Let's see if I can figure this one out. Okay, I've done a number of these. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot of people that come through. Set up, you want to be there early. If there aren't enough carts, get your stuff up there. My thinking on this year, well, two things. Even if you don't have a scope, even if you think you're new and you don't know much and you're not comfortable running a scope, we need people to kind of guide people. Those of us with scopes need to go to the bathroom and having somebody who can, because you don't want to leave your equipment unattended. And my guess is, I've seen the extended weather forecast. It is supposed to be warm and clear at this point. I am expecting tons of people. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be really busy, but it is glass. So if you hadn't thought about coming, rethink.
Monona Terrace does the advertising for this. You know, of course, we put it up on our website and our Facebook page, but Monona Terrace does public relations. They do advertising. It's been up on their website now for, I think, about a month. And this coming week, it will be the landing page of their website. So if somebody goes to Monona Terrace Convention Center, they'll see it. They do, I mean, they've done radio in the past. I haven't heard it this year, but I'm assuming they're doing radio again. And because they want to keep a tab on the numbers. It's a free event, but they require that you get a ticket to attend. And the way you get a ticket is just go to their website and click a button and you've got your ticket. So that helps them keep track of numbers. And then the access to the rooftop there at Monona Terrace is you can only get in through certain points. And they set up tables and have clickers. So they're kind of checking people in as they come in so they can keep track of numbers. And those tables give us a wonderful opportunity to have an MAS member at those tables. That's one of the positions that Lawrence is talking about. Reading public, answering questions, talking up the fact that this is the Madison Astronomical Society. So um, it's a great outreach effort for us to get our name out into the Madison community.
Oh, yes, you're going to come on up.
We've had people who do it almost every year. I'm one who hasn't. I think I've done it 3 times in about 10 years I've been a member. It is a lot of fun. I always bring a little scope, an 85 millimeter or a 92 millimeter, one or the other. So I'm strictly showing the moon. But just watching kids who see the moon through a telescope. I don't know if any of you remember what it's like when you were a kid to look through a telescope, but the gee whiz factor is great. The other part of that is if you're going to bring a telescope and expect to have little kiddies looking through it, bring a stool. You'd be surprised how many kids also get a little bit nervous even when they're standing on the ground. So I've found that with their parents there, I ask if I could just hold their shoulders because it's amazing. Kids will go and your telescope may fall over. So think about little ergonomic type things like that if you bring your scope up, but it is a lot of fun. The first time I went, actually, I was working one of the tables, and that also was a lot of fun. I was amazed at how many teenagers showed up. You expect families with kids and older people. The teenagers were there. So that was also interesting. So if you're being a teenager,
Any questions or comments about next week? Bonnie, I'm going to make you get up now.
Never used it.
Don't
Like this close?
No.
Okay, so,
put down here.
okay, so other than the people far away, I could just speak loud. But anyways, I volunteered once, maybe it was like last year, however. And I was just at a informational table. And I think you mentioned about, or maybe John, you did about having like a list, like publicizing a list of objects that were going to be viewable. Anyways, I had people who came to the table, like asking, okay, where would they go to see such and such an object? So there must have been something. So I guess, and I don't know if this is possible, but for those people who are sitting at a table or the ushers, could there be like a list that says, oh, this person is going to be imaging these things, so then we can point them
Yeah,
with where to go.
that's what we'd like to do because I think the information table is going to be a good anchor point for all the ushers. Um, just for that, or you can even an usher could relieve one of the info table people and they could change if they want to. But yeah, this is one of the vital things about all the people who volunteered to let me know what sky object you want to view. I believe it was supposed to be by this weekend. Otherwise, we're going to try to assign objects to everyone as best as we can, just so that there will be a list and somebody can go into an information table or bump into an usher, or if you're an usher and you're going by telescopes, you can just kind of hawk, hey, Saturn's on this telescope, this is the line to view Saturn, things like that. So those are all different approaches. But yeah, I'll make sure that there's a list at the information tables and all the ushers have lists.
Yeah.
And it's also important to know, because since we're assigning specific people's spots on the roof, um, the ushers will know where to go based on the list and the map.
In previous years, we've also attempted to have signs so that if you're waiting in this line to get to that telescope, then up by the telescope, there's a sign that says Saturn. I don't know if there's a plan to do that
No.
this year. That was not a perfect plan because it's dark. And when you're in a line that's 30 people deep and you're number 30, you can't see a sign that's hanging on a telescope. And it's fraught with problems. And so we're constantly trying to figure out a better way to do this because you don't want all those people who come out to see this event and participate in this event to be frustrated because I thought I was waiting in line to see Saturn and it's the moon again. And so I went to the other telescope where I thought they were looking at the Hercules globular cluster, and it was the moon again. And so, it's difficult to do it well. Um, but my response is they don't call it Moon Over Monona for nothing. The moon is the easiest target, and unfortunately, there's a lot to see. Those of us who do video have the advantage of, people aren't waiting in line for a long time for 30 seconds at the eyepiece. People can stand in a semicircle and look at the TV while we're talking and pointing and discussing and taking questions, and everybody's looking at the same thing. Guaranteed to be a crowd pleaser. But again, that's only going to make people happy for so long. So it's an imperfect event, but we do our best.
And, we did bring up during the planning meeting, we did bring up the possibility, even if we put up paper signs on easels with red lights on them, would that be something we could look at this year? And the Monona Terrace people were not in favor of doing that. And they also kind of pointed out one of the other interesting problems with an event like this is people will they see a long line somewhere and they tend to just automatically want to get in the longest line because that must be the fear of missing out. That must be where the best thing to see is. So
Like the usher's main job then is to help, like, so is that the usher's main job is to help direct people? So know, like, oh, here, this person I know just brought up Saturn, so then if you've got somebody wandering, do they kind of check in? Oh, what are you looking for? Oh, yep, Saturn's over there.
yeah, that would be a very good thing for an usher to do. Also, and not only that, to help make sure the lines are forming up in a productive way, if at all possible. But then, also, the usher is also there if someone has to step away from their telescope for a moment to have someone hopefully there to take over for them for a little bit.
So Bonnie, my response to your question is that ushers who are kind of floating will know, for instance, that Harry with his LX200 is on Saturn right now. And that usher can kind of then go spread the word that, okay, if you really want to see Saturn over here, that's not a perfect system either, because once Terry's been on Saturn for 90 minutes, Terry's probably going to point at something else. And there are people back in that line thought they were waiting for Saturn and all of a sudden they're not.
Oh, the last few years we've had it so that telescopes have stayed on the same object the
All
entire
night?
night. Except for, when obvious changeovers, like, yeah, it's too dark, it's too light out right now for me to look at the Hercules globular cluster. So I'll look at the moon for now and then I'll switch it over to my object when it gets darker.
Terry?
What's it, Jerry?
A couple of the years, what I did is print off on my printer what objects I was looking at in big bold letters, and I had cut out a hole in a shoebox, and then would have whenever I would change objects, I would change the sheet in the shoebox, and I had a light stick behind it, so it wasn't hurting anybody's eyes, but they could see what I was on.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry.
Other thoughts or comments about Moon Over Monona? Keith?
Yeah, it's something I've done in the past for little kids. In addition to my big scope, I've got a little scope, and I just pointed to the statue on top of the Capitol building.
People love
And
that.
kids are fascinating with that.
People love that.
Great suggestion.
Yeah, we had a guy one year, some of you know, Session Telescopes, I forget his name right now, but he had his dog pointed at forward on top of the Capitol all night. Okay, you did it. Okay. People love it.
He's done it 3 times.
Yeah. It's an amazing, I mean, there's a lot of targets you can point at if you want to be somewhat indiscreet in downtown Madison. Um, but, people, for the variety's sake, and just, if you want some evidence of how much a telescope can magnify, there's nothing like peeking in a window, across the. I was that 12-year-old kid. I'm so well into my 30s. Okay, thank you all. Oh, Alex.
Come on up, Alex.
Sure. So just two questions. I'm looking forward to participating. This will be the first one I go to. So I was just curious. Would you say it's like pretty accessible? Like, is there an elevator to the roof? Okay.
Yeah, this will come out in the final load, and I don't expect the load in instructions should change very much the way it usually does. But on the east side, there's an east loading dock, and there is a freight elevator because the first time I did it, I didn't know that there was a freight elevator, and I took one of the regular stairwells and the regular elevators and moved up my 6-inch refractor and tripod and mount and did it the hard way. But there's a nice big freight elevator that goes from the loading dock where there'll be some reserved parking for the volunteers, and there'll be a few carts for people to move up their equipment and just cart right into the elevator, right straight to the roof and roll out onto the roof. It makes it super easy. The only trick is rather because sometimes people make the mistake of when they uh, set up their tripod, then the cart stays right by them while they're setting it up. And the thing what you need to do is you need to unload your equipment from the cart as quickly as you can and get it back down to the loading dock. And that's one of the things that any people who's an usher or an information table person, if you get there early, that's one of the things you can help with is to help people figure out where they need to go and then make sure and be there to take the cart away for them and put the cart back down in the loading dock so that the volunteer with the telescope can focus on setting up their equipment. Another question, Alex? Go.
Oh, actually, yeah. So my other question had to do with carts. I actually have two collapsible carts that can carry. Okay, that's
Just make sure that you take them home with you.
Yeah, that's another reason that you should definitely let Lawrence know if you plan to volunteer, because you want the insider information on where to go, where to park your car, how to access those carts, where that freight elevator is, and so forth. You don't want to be in Lawrence's situation the first time he did it, which unfortunately was probably when I was president, when I was planning this, and I somehow let Lawrence down, and he ended up.
Or I wasn't paying attention. I assumed I thought I might have assumed I knew what I was doing, which was
Yeah,
a
so
mistake I've been known to make.
let's assume it was your fault. So that's Moon Over Monona. Hope you guys can come out because it really is a blast and a half.
And another safety note, some of us have heavy equipment, and just to give you a heads up that there will not be Monona Terrace people there to help us move equipment. So if you need a hand, be sure to flag down another Astronomical Society member, and they can give you a hand. Um, but, I look forward to this every year. Go ahead, Chris. You go. Yes. Yes.
Are we
Chris
going to
is
have
asked-
name tags? Is Chris's question.
Yeah, Chris, the Monona Terrace has actually decided they want to print out name tags for us this year. So I gave them a list of all the current volunteers. Um, and that's one of the things, my final thought is every year I just get warm, fuzzy feelings about what a positive impact, because this is really a neat thing that we put on. That's kind of a very positive and unique thing to this community. So it just makes this whole area just more fun to live in.
One other question. I lost my blue hoodie sweatshirt years ago, and I inquired, and I think someone said that we still had some for sale. And someone was gonna bring one tonight. I don't know if they. No, we didn't bring one. Oh, I have to know the size, because depending on the size, we may actually
depending on the size, we may actually have to order it. We have some samples, but we can talk about the size and we can talk about it.
We have a very limited number of those left, and the ones that tend to be left after the sales of the XXXLs, which I don't think would be right for you, and the smalls. And I think the ones that we have left are pretty limited.
I could recommend, hey, you could wear a Madison Astronomical Society hat, which I have done, but then I find when I'm looking through my eyepiece, the bill bumps into it, so bumps into the telescope.
Okay, we're going to turn to topic number two. Topic number two is the Astronomical League membership. And again, I can't resist. Did I mention that I'm the historian of the club? We were a founding member back in 1936. This club was not even a year old yet, and there was a new association called the American Amateur Astronomical Association, 4As. I don't know if they called it, A to the fourth or what, but that club was a conglomeration or an affiliation of about 7 astronomy clubs, Milwaukee and Madison, maybe one other Wisconsin-based club, and then clubs from around the country. And they published a newsletter for several years, made an attempt to have some conventions, but this society was maybe premature, maybe too expensive or otherwise unwieldy. By the mid-1930s, they had kind of disbanded. But a loose association of those clubs continued meeting through the 1940s. And in the later part of the 1940s, 1946, 47, the Astronomical League formally incorporated. All of the original members of the AAAA went on to be members of the Astronomical League. So Madison Astronomical Association was a charter member of the Astronomical League, but was also involved from the beginning with the precursor. So we go back to 1936 with this group of clubs in the Astronomical League. Between 1949 and 1993, the Madison Astronomical Society hosted 5 conventions, 2 regional, NECRAL, which is the North Central Association, North Central something of the NECRAL, and then we hosted 3 nationwide conferences. After that 1993 national convention, MAS resigned from the league. I could go into the details of what happened. There were differences of opinion, there were hurt feelings, and there were grudges. And as a result, MAS voted to leave the Astronomical League in late 1993. And that's it for the last 30 years. MAS has not been a member of the league that it helped found. 2024, just a couple of months ago, this group, the board voted to rejoin the Astronomical League. So like Jurgen said earlier, when you get your dues statement in a week or so, there will be a box to check. You're not automatically in the league. It's not part of your dues. You have the option to join the Astronomical League as part of your club membership. And it is a bargain because it only costs $9 a year, $9 a year. And so there's a prorated deal for the first 2 years in this year's membership. So the Astronomical League is very happy that we're back in the fold. Jack, how many clubs are in the league now? Do you know?
310.
About 310 astronomy clubs, up from the original 6 or 7 back in the 1930s. So it's a big organization. There are a lot of reasons to be a member. There are a lot of good things that come out of it. The biggest thing is probably that the league runs a lot of observing programs to challenge you as an observer to observe a list of difficult objects, or maybe a list of easier objects, or just interesting objects, or whatever. Jack, any chance you want to say like a word or two about that?
Yeah, I believe he just recently traveled to attend one of the meetings.
Jack is a master observer.
The way you say that. Yeah, Jack Fitzmyer. I've been involved in the Astronomical League for a number of years. I retired here from Atlanta and was in the Atlanta Club, which has been historically very much involved in the league. I'm delighted that we're decided to come back. For me, The observing programs are really important. I've done about 30 of them. Typically, you are asked to view 100 objects of some kind. So for instance, there's a galaxy called a flat galaxy. There's a scientific definition of a flat galaxy. Well, there's a program where you look at 100 different flat galaxies. You can image them, you can do them visually, and so forth. I find that the discipline required to do that is kind of good for my soul. I tend to think that way, and it's been very helpful to me. Um, Two things. One is if you watch the Facebook page, um, I hope before Monday, before um, Jurgen sends out the renewal notices, I will put up a what's it called, John? Keynote, PowerPoint keynote
Oh,
on
video, like a video.
with a narrative on what I think the benefits of the AL are, so you can make a decision. And secondly, one of the programs I haven't done is called the Bright Nebula program, and it's particularly good for people who do AP astrophotography. And I'm going to start it, and we'll invite a bunch of people who might like to join me to kind of all of us do it together. So I'm very pleased this has happened. I think it's going to be great for the club, and I think it's great as a membership benefit, but I think it should be great for your um, amateur astronomy.
Thanks, Jack. Any other questions or comments? Jürgen, come on up.
Just for the benefit of people who may think about joining, I just wanted to say exactly how the joining will work. Um, it's a 1-year membership in the Astronomical League is $9. We're going to be charging $16 to get you into it. What that ends up getting you, because their fiscal year ends July 1st, or starts July 1st. Ours starts October 1st. And when you become a member, you're actually a member from July 1st through September. No, June 30th. There we go. So to make everything work out nicely, when we join, you end up joining through, if you join this year, you'll end up being a member through June 30th, 2025. And then the $9 extra that you pay takes you through June 30th of 2026. So if you happen to not renew, that AL membership will continue through June 30th of 2026. And then when you renew the following year, if you renew your MAS membership and your AL membership, that will renew you through June 30th of 2027. So you end up paying only $9 for that. So the $7 is really kind of a true up fee and a little bit of administrative fee. We're not making any money on it. Boy, I wish we could. We're always looking for money.
But one of the other things that you get from your AL membership is they publish a magazine 4 times a year called Reflector, and that magazine is entirely driven by members. So there are no paid journalists who write. It's all AL members writing about their observing experiences, trips they've taken, photography, equipment talk, things like that. Does the North Central Association, does it have its own newsletter publication too? So you'll be part of the North Central region as well. So you'll get 2 publications, probably 4 times a year. And then the conventions are open for you to go to. The conventions tend to be pretty popular too.
One other thing I wanted to mention, I looked at some of the programs that Jack referenced. And when you're a newbie trying to figure out what to look at in the sky, how many million objects are there out there? And the one thing about their program, you could find a program that kind of gives you a guided tour of what's interesting. So that's a big virtue right there. It helps you get into the field, helps you figure out how your telescope will operate, helps you figure out what's out there and how to navigate to it. If you're like me, I look at the sky and I cannot identify anything. I'm one of the people who depends on GoTo, other than the moon. So that's a virtue right there, the fact that it gives you a guided tour of what to look at.
Other questions or comments about the Astronomical League? So I hope you'll consider joining. It is an additional cost over and above your $60 membership, but I think it's a worthwhile extra.
Family members.
family membership, Jurgen says. Alex, yeah, when you part of the money that you send in to join the league is your prorated first year. Okay, that's the Astronomical League. Last topic that I have rearranged is the MAS picnic. And again, did I mention history? Uh, Newspaper announcement. Astronomical Society plans picnic. Madison Astronomical Society will hold its annual picnic and election of officers Wednesday at Hoyt Park from 4 to 10. Don't put Hoyt Park on your calendar. That was the June 6, 1948 picnic. MAS started the picnic tradition almost immediately after the club was formed. We have records of picnics going back into the 1930s. The picnic is just a huge event. This is a picture from 1960. I believe, although I've never been able to find the location, I believe this picture was taken at what they called Lower Point Park, which is now just an overgrown field off of, I forget the name of the street, just north of the park. But I don't know for sure that that's Lower Hoyt Park. This is a group of MAS members. The two men in the center of this picture, um, the white shirt on the left, Dr. Charles Huffer. He was in the astronomy department at University of Wisconsin. He was a longtime member of this club, Dr. Huffer. And talking to Dr. Huffer is Harold Porterfield. 1960, these two men had been the backbone of the club for more than 20 years. They both retired in 1960 to 61. Dr. Huffer moved to San Diego and Harold Porterfield retired to Florida. So the club lost an astounding, central leadership focus in 1960. And predictably, the club went through somewhat of a decline in the later 1960s. But that's two of the giants of the club just before they left Madison and left the club. And that was at a picnic. And you can tell, with the exception of the young woman standing at the very left, it was kind of an aging club then. It's kind of an aging club now in some ways. Perennial problem with clubs like ours.
You should have been at the Star Party last week. There were a lot of
I heard about the
young-
the youth
Yeah.
show. Yeah, yeah. This is a more recent picnic. This is 2010. Um, all of our picnics are now held down at YRS, so we hold them on our property, and we generally stay over and observe later that evening if the skies are clear. So the picnic has been a long tradition in the club, and one that we're, post COVID, we're happy to get back into. We kind of had a picnic last year, celebrating the new pads and the new renovations that have been done there, and also celebrating the life of Win Wacker, who passed away last fall. But September 28th, rain date 29th. Is that correct, Lawrence? So instructions will be coming in club announcements. The picnic it's another great tradition of the club. Questions, comments about the picnic? Rich,
Yes, Chris.
come on up.
You know I'm gonna talk. I gotta talk about my baby. Okay, by the way, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Chris Seltner. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a longtime member of the club. I've been on the board twice. And for an awful lot of years, I ran the picnic, and then I took a couple of years off, and now I'm back. So the picnic is the 28th. The club will provide brats, hot dogs, and burgers. It's potluck. I believe John said he would run the grill. Am I correct?
I do not recall saying that. I I would not be opposed.
Okay.
Trying to grow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's over all of these, and I haven't heard older yet. Sure.
Yeah, he had a rough time last year. So we will have a couple of grills set up. You're free to bring something of your own to cook, but it will be a potluck, so side dishes, desserts. The club will provide beverages, I don't know, water, and I don't know if we're gonna bring something else. You can bring your own beverages. I will be writing up an email in the very near future for Lawrence to send out. I would like people who are coming. You don't absolutely have to, but it would be nice if you could tell me who's coming so I have some idea how much food to buy. Um, but yeah, it's a good time, and we do. If it's going to be clear, we will observe, which is really fun. So hope to see a lot of you there.
Yeah.
The next day, the 29th. So that's it.
The tradition used to be that the picnic was also the occasion of annual elections to the board. And so we would convene a quick board meeting down there and do that business and, you know, that kind of thing. But that's no longer the case. If you've been in the club for, you know, the past year, we do our elections here in the May meeting every year. So the picnic is 100% socializing, eating, and hopefully observing. All right.
Yes, yes, Bonnie.
So with a lot of people's with I assume a fair number of our members now being observing members, would it be worthwhile to have a orientation at the picnic?
I think we generally do that. The observatory director, who is present tonight, Dave, will generally glom onto one of those emails that goes out and say if there are any people who have not yet had their YRS orientation, it's a great time to do it. Bonnie, you're exactly right. And Dave will probably be doing one group, maybe a couple of individual, and maybe a couple of ad hoc like orientations throughout the afternoon and evening. So yeah.
Oh, yes, you're good.
I can just yield a question.
Right.
And is there any thought at all about asking who's going to bring telescopes? If we do have a large turnout, because we do have 14 pads, but if we have a mob of 100.
Yeah. So Jurgen's question is there any thought given to having people announce beforehand that they are bringing their telescopes back?
We haven't done that in the past. Yeah, we'll see once the dust has settled from Moon Over Monona Terrace. That sounds like a pretty good idea. Because in the past, it's been first come, first serve, and that was one of the reasons why we decided to build all the extra pads is because we had, you know, we've had a very large turnout. I mean, the last star party just last Saturday, we had all but 2 pads occupied.
Did you get a head count
Of
last Saturday?
Last Saturday, no, but there was more people there than people who were using the pads, and there were only 2 pads that were not occupied. So it was a very, a very neat event. And frankly, a lot of the people that showed up there I hadn't seen there before, and some of them I recognized as newer members. So it was a really great time. And hopefully the picnic will be even better. It'll be kind of like for those of us who were lucky enough when the Lake County uh, Astronomy Club visited us from Illinois. We had kind of a little bit of a cookout, and we had a fantastic night too. It was a great time. So.
Other questions or comments about the picnic? Okay, hope to see you there. That's it for the 3 items that I had planned. Does anybody have any questions or other items for discussion that you want to bring up?
I haven't heard anybody mention, I've seen a YouTube video, I don't know whether it's real or not.
Hold on.
I saw in a YouTube video, a comet, what is it, Atlas? It's supposed to come into view, I think it's September 27th. Am I just getting bad information or?
There are comets everywhere.
Well, this one is supposed to be pretty dramatic.
And there are often comets that are forecast to be really good visual comets. Most of those do not materialize into visual spectacles. I do not know about Comet Atlas, so I don't know about the one you're referring to. I have not heard the chatter that I normally hear when there is genuine consensus of opinion that a comet is going to dramatically brighten to telescopic, binocular, or visual status. So I don't know. I haven't heard. Anybody?
Oftentimes when the comets first show up and are best visible, usually you have to get up early in the morning, right before sunrise to see them. And then as the comet passes to the other side, then you can see them in the evening. So I'm not sure what the details is with this one.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying that by far, when something like that is touted, it's like aurora forecasts. More often than not, it turns out to be um, telescopic only. Uh, Sometimes a dud telescopically, usually a dud visually too. So I do not know.
I see you're going to showing
The newfound comet atlas is getting really bright, really fast, and the date on this article is March 20th, 2020.
that's from a website called space.com.
Right, and this is right, and maybe they've reused the name, but that's when I Googled it, that was the only comment.
So this isn't one of those websites, just so everyone knows, this isn't one of those websites that's a remnant of the shell company created by Russian propagandists recently. So if in case, yeah, so it still looks like a good source.
Yeah, I first heard about it in the spring, and they were talking by this fall that it could be like one of the best we've seen in a long time. And this is saying around October 12th, 2024.
And it's called Comet Atlas.
Yeah.
So
-3, so.
yeah, so we'll be sure to update all of your sky apps on your phones, and so it has the current position of it, and keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible. I would say it's improbable, but it's possible. Nobody thought Neowise, in 2020, 2021. I can't remember Neowise, but that's the last visually naked eye comet that we had. Um, there are comet announcements and comets tracked every month. There are probably a dozen or more. Most of them are not visually, bright enough to be visual. They're telescopic only. Um, so bright visual comets do happen. We learned with Hyakutake and Hale-Bopp in the 1990s, Neowise a couple of years ago, but they tend to be rare, and most of the announcements tend not to end up getting as bright as people hoped they would. So people generally try to temper their pre-announcements, but obviously people are talking about this one, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on and getting those star charts printed anytime you're going to go out so you can take a look for yourself. Good question. Anything else? Okay, I will close then by saying again, next month I'm going to give the talk. It's going to be about MAS history. I couldn't resist talking a little bit about some MAS history tonight. Seriously, you don't want to miss next month. This is going to be good. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be something you want to know about. And trust me on that. It will come out on October 11th.
And thanks for showing somewhere recently, I saw a newspaper or about they're them celebrating the anniversary, I forget what your anniversary it was, and what was it, 1990?
Yeah.
And it happened to mention in there that the dues were still $35 back then. Plus the observatory fees. So it's amazing how little that changed in over 30 years. So
Yeah, the last time the club celebrated its birthday was in 1990, and the club celebrated its 60th anniversary. Problem is, the club was not born in 1930. They got it wrong. And that's, there are reasons why that happened, completely understandable, but I'm going to also, talk about when the club was actually born and then make an announcement.
well, thank you, John. So unless anyone else has anything they want to quickly bring up, if not, I will go ahead and say It was fun being here tonight, and we look forward to seeing hopefully a lot of you at Moon Over Monona Terrace next Friday night, and then back here on the second Friday of October. Which date is that? On October, Friday, October 11th. We'll be right back here. So have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you real soon.